How's it going, everyone? It's Ben Foggins, Media Corner, back again with a brand new video for today. Welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw. This time for this new episode for the series is going to be my review on the 2024 supernatural horror film, and this is the prequel to the 1976 horror classic, and it's also the sixth installment to this series as well, and that is The First Omen. Now, this is directed by first-time director Arkasha Stevenson, and as I mentioned before, this is the prequel to the 1976 horror classic known as The Omen, and this tells the story where a young American woman named Margaret, played by Nell, she is sent to Rome to begin a life service to the church, but she soon starts to encounter a darkness that causes her to question her faith, and she uncovers a terrifying conspiracy that hopes to bring about the birth of an evil incarnate. So that's pretty much the story of The First Omen. Now, I had pretty low expectations for this movie because usually when it comes to horror prequels, there rarely been like any horror prequels out there that are like, worth a viewing. And when it comes to like horror spin-offs to some of the popular franchises, they can either be hit or miss. Like last year we've had The Exorcist Believer, and you guys know how I felt about that movie because I wasn't really the biggest fan of that movie, and yeah, the movie was really bad. And when it comes to that franchise, the ones I tend to enjoy the most of out of the franchise has always been, the original 1973 classic as well as the third movie. But when it comes to the Omen franchise, the one I always tend to enjoy the most of out of this franchise has always been the original 1976 classic. And when it comes to the sequels and the remake, I'm not really the fan of any of those movies. But I was still wanted to check this movie out since I'm a fan of the original 1976 classic. And this film just came out yesterday, which came out on the 5th of April. But I didn't see this film on opening day because I wanted to see Monkey Man first. So I decided to see this film the next day, which I just recently got back from seeing this film today. I saw this on my jail for free, and with a fair amount of people on the screen that I was in. And I do have my ticket for the film, which I do have right here. And after watching this whole movie here, shockingly, this movie has got to be the best out of this franchise here since the original 1976 classic here. Like, I had a really great time with this prequel here, and I can easily say as well, it's definitely one of the better horror prequels I've seen in recent years here as well. While the first act of this film I thought was a bit weak because, like, after the first 5 minutes of the film, it kind of felt a bit weak because it kind of felt similar to, like, other horror openings that we've seen before in the past and, like, in like, these kind of horror films. But the film manages to get better and better later down the line once it gets into the second act and the third act of the film. When it comes to the final act of the film, it was really insane for the amount of grotesque elements that this film provides here and there. And when it came to some of those moments here in this film, they were really sickening. And yet there were times as I was watching the film, I thought like I wasn't going to have the stomach to myself as I was watching those moments. And there's a good amount of like bucket of gore here in this film as well, which when it came to those moments, they were really crazy as hell for the amount of blood and gore that we see in the film here. And when it comes to the creepiness in the film, I thought they were pretty well effective in terms of the scares, in which there were a few of the scares in the film that I thought were not too bad. And as for the deaths in the film, they were truly disturbing, and even though there were a few that kind of felt were a bit predictable as well as with some of the scares, but they're not too bad for the most part here. And yeah, they are well directed here by Arkasha Stevenson, who directs this film. And as for the acting in the film, like Nell plays Margaret in the film. I thought she overall gave a strong performance as the lead star of the film, and everyone else for the most part, they all gave strong performances for their characters as well. So overall, in the end, guys, The First Omen, like I said, this film really surprised me here. It's definitely another great horror prequel I've seen in recent years, and it's definitely one of my favorites out of this franchise here. Although I wouldn't necessarily say this is definitely better than the original film, but this still is a great entry to this franchise here. And if you're overall like a massive fan of like the original Omen film, or you're fan of like these kind of films, this is one you truly don't want to miss out for yourselves here. So that's pretty much all I have to say about The First Omen. I'm gonna give The First Omen 4 out of 5. Yeah, like I said, this film really surprised me here. And despite having a few issues I did have with this film here, they never managed to harm my experience as I was watching this film from beginning to end here. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching for my AK After I Saw review on The First Omen, and let me know what you think of this prequel, if you have seen this already, or if you just recently checked out this film. Did you have a really great time with this, or was this not really your cup of tea? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and this has been Foggins Media Corner signing off.